welcome back to another must-add video. Today, I'm going to be going over some must-add players for you guys for the next little bit in fantasy hockey. We've got some really hot players on the uptick, so I definitely want to highlight them. I know Mike has really been diving into the playoff schedules, but again, keep an eye on some of these players as we continue to prolong ourselves through the season as mainstays on your team, depending on your league settings. That being said, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Starting us off is Ivan Barbashev of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's back off of injury and back onto that top line, skating alongside Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. He's currently 42% owned and line one and power play 2, with averaging over 18 minutes average time on ice in his last 5 games since getting bumped up to that top line. So a big increase in time on ice. Barbashev has been super hot, super cold at times, but he's got 15 goals, 18 assists with 65 shots and 81 hits on the season. So a good mix of shot and hit volume alongside with some scoring upside, skating on that top line. Totally good with it, getting exposure to that top line at 5-on-5. I think Barbashev should be a great add. Moving on to Anton Lundell, 38% owned, line 3, power play 2. And I know what you're saying, Chris, why are you recommending a line 3 player? Well, he's been incredibly consistent given these line 3 minutes, only skating around 16 minutes average time on ice, but over his last 20 games, he's got 14 points, 4 goals, 10 assists, 39 shots, 42 hits, and 13 blocks in that span. So a good mix of shot, hit, and block volume. So if you count those 3 categories in your league, highly recommend taking a stab at Anton Lundell. He's also great in the faceoff department if you guys count faceoffs as one of your categories. I know there's a handful of you that do and always ask about it, but center right wing eligible, and he's been, like I said, incredibly productive during his kind of stint on that line 3 there. If anything happens to some injury-prone players like Sam Bennett or Alexander Barkov, then you know he's going to get a bump up into the lineup, and sometimes even skates at line 1 alongside a Barkov as well. So just something to keep an eye on with him. He's been really good production-wise, so I thought I would recommend him. Nick Schmaltz, on the other hand, has been absolutely lights out as of late. Center right wing eligible, 36% owned, line 1, power play 1, skating on that top line. Ever since they moved up Logan Cooley to play on that top line, Keller, Schmaltz, and Cooley have been unbelievable together. So a line 1, power play 1, playing over 19 minutes average time on ice in his last 10 games. He's got 4 goals, 6 assists. He's playing a huge role, like I said, in Utah. And they have a really good playoff schedule as well. If you go and take a look at them, highly recommend that you look at Nick Schmaltz. He's probably my favorite ad right now. I managed to snag him up before he went on this heater, so I was lucky enough to kind of ride that wave out in one of my leagues. Alexei Protas, center left wing, 36% rostered. He's line 2, doesn't get any power play time, which is shocking to me considering the fact that he has 21 goals and 21 assists on the season. He plays a really good role at 5-on-5, I guess, for that team. He scores a ton of goals, and he scores in bunches, and he's hot right now. Like, if you go look at his last 5 games, he's starting to click right back into that lineup. Plays around 16 minutes a night. I think if you're in like a little bit more of a deeper league, he's a really good option. He's center left wing eligible. His shot volume isn't great, and I don't think he really hits or blocks on top of that, but the production's just been so good this year that I'm actually shocked that he's not on a current power play unit. So still, either way, I'm looking to add him in some of my deeper leagues, especially just given the production that he is handing out right now. And then Adam Fantilli, probably my second favorite add in terms of forwards right now. 24% owned, line 1, power play 1, playing well over 20 minutes now in his last 10 games. He's got 6 goals, 5 assists with 27 shots, 5 hits, and 8 blocks. We now know that Sean Monahan is going to be out till around March, so Fantilli is going to be the number 1 center hands down in Columbus. If you guys watched the content on the channel in the preseason, you know that we were really high on Fantilli for a breakout season, given the fact that we were under the assumption that he was going to be that line 1 center. That was since taken over by Sean Monahan for the majority of the year, but since Fantilli's been placed on that top line, he's been lights out, over a point a game in his last 10. Highly recommend that you look at adding Adam Fantilli, especially from a long-term perspective, given the fact that Columbus is one of the best teams in the National Hockey League when it comes to scoring goals. I think they're literally number 1 in goals per game, or total goals, one of the two. But they're lights out right now, which you would never expect in terms of scoring. And he's skating on that top line alongside Kromarchenko. And I believe it's Voronkov as well. Moving on to some other forward ads. These are ones that are under 25%. Oh, Morgan Geekie and Pavel Zacha are both on the hottest line in the National Hockey League right now. It's Geekie, Zacha, and it's David Pastrnak. They are lights out if you look at their production in their last 10. I've highlighted some even for Geeky in his last 15. I think I like Geeky a little bit more than Zaka, even though they're roughly the same ownership. Number one, he's triple eligible. Number two, he gets you a ton of shots, hits, and chips and blocks as well. They're both playing a ton of minutes right now. Zaka is well over 19 minutes. They're both skating on the hottest line in the NHL right now. They've been so good in their last 10, even their last like 5 have just been scoring at a ridiculous rate. So be sure to check those guys out as they continue to stay hot. And then Ken Johnson, 15% owned. If you're in a shallow league and you don't own this guy, pick him up. And yes, he plays only around 16 minutes, around 17 minutes, depending on some nights, but he's got 10 points in his last 11 games. He's got 19 shots. He's a high production player. Highly recommend that you add him. Triple eligible, really easy to fit into your lineups. And then finally, Marco Kasper, a player that we definitely need to keep an eye on. He's only 14% owned right now, but he's skating line 1 and power play 1. I mentioned him in a weekly preview video. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I mentioned him in one of the last couple weeks here, but he's been really good on that top line. 7 goals, 4 assists in his last 10 with 19 shots, 16 hits, and 7 blocks. So he seems to be pretty versed in terms of the peripheral stats as well. And he's center left wing eligible, so highly recommend that you guys keep an eye on Marco Kasper, especially moving forward. I expect his ownership to go way, way up if he continues to produce at this rate moving forward. Moving on to defensemen, guys, Jackson Lacombe is only 27% rostered. I do not understand. He's pair 1 and power play 1 in Anaheim. He plays well over 23 minutes average time on ice in his last 15. He's got 10 points, 42 shots. This is 6th amongst all defensemen in the National Hockey League in this span, and 26 blocks on top of that. So not only do you have a really high shot volume defenseman who's power play 1, he gets you a ton of blocks as well too, and he's been producing in his last 15. You can't expect, especially defensemen, to be around a point a game that you're just going to suddenly grab off of waivers. It just doesn't really happen. But the fact that this guy is only 27% owned is mind-boggling to me. Please go pick this guy up right now. Do not let the bad team fallacy impact you. He is much better than a lot of roster defensemen in that 30 to 40% range. So please go pick him up. Jared Spurgeon, only 10% owned, so if you're in a deeper league, this is a great option, but he is pair 1 and power play 1 and plays well over 20 minutes every time he's skating. He does have a bit of an injury history, and he seems to come and go every couple weeks or so, but since his return in 4 games, he's got 3 points, 6 shots, and 10 blocks. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he stays healthy because he is on that top power play unit, replacing Brock Faber, who's kind of having a bit of a down year. But Spurgeon, again, any type of power play 1 exposure, even though Kaprizov is undergoing surgery and is going to be out for a little bit, still want exposure to that top power play. And Spurgeon's great in the shot and block department as well. Alexander Romanov, pair 1, doesn't get any power play time, but plays a ton of minutes in New York right now, especially with Noah Dobson being out. He is getting a ton of minutes, as you can guys see, well over 23 minutes in his last 15 games played. He's got 11 points during that span with 25 shots, 32 hits, and 36 blocks. So a good mix of peripherals. And then on top of that, he's got 11 points somehow without touching the power play. So again, just somebody to consider if you're in a deep league, if you need a defenseman, if you have Dobson, you need a replacement for him. I know he's been out for a while now, but another defenseman to consider. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Tony DeAngelo, he's got a really, really small sample size. He's only 13% owned. Pair 3, power play 1 right now. He's replaced Noah Dobson on that top power play unit, but he's getting a ton of minutes, guys. In 2 games, he's averaging over 23 minutes a night, which is absolutely insane. And he's on that top power play unit on the Islanders, which has some pretty skilled pieces. Only 13% owned. Again, if you need a defenseman, getting good defensemen at this time in the season is so rare, especially power play 1 defenseman. So just keep an eye on him as we get more sample size from him. We'll have a better understanding of what that race kind of look like, or jump on him now while his ownership is still low. And then rounding out our list for defense, we have Sean Durzi. He is on IR right now, only 13% roster, but you need to add this guy now. He's practicing with the team. He's going to be back after 4 Nations. Grab him now. He was a solid defenseman last year. So again, just stash him on your IR for right now and then add him to your lineup once he gets back after the 4 Nations Cup. But you want to take advantage right now while his ownership is still low. Finding a decent goaltender in this point in the season under like 40% owned might be more difficult than finding a defenseman, honestly. But Samuel Harrison has started 6 of the last 7 games for Philadelphia. He's got a 4-0-2 record with 3 games above a 920 save percentage. So again, we want to focus on guys that are getting us a ton of volume. and that aren't completely miserable every time they touch the ice. Harrison, I can't imagine that, it's going to stay consistently over a 920, but his stats have been good enough every time he's kind of jumped into the net so far that I feel he's worth an add if you need a goalie, just given the volume and the fact that he started 6 of the last 7. Alex Nedeljkovic, same story. I think Mike had Tristan Jarry here at one point. I don't remember if it was the last must add he did, but rest in peace to that guy. Ned has started 5 of those last 7 games. One of those games was a back-to-back, so he couldn't have started both games. So he's getting like 90% of the share right now in Pittsburgh with a 2-0-4 record. Obviously not a good record, but 4 games over a 910 save percentage in that time is decent enough. Again, given the volume that he's getting, if you're in a points league, definitely could consider grabbing this guy. Just give me the volume that he's getting. The saves and the wins are always a bonus, but the saves and the volume is what you're really after. Same thing with Peter Mrazek, really 12% owned. Started 6 of the last 9 games. He's got a 2-0-4 record, but 3 games over a 910 save percentage in that time. So again, 6 of the last 9 games, his volume isn't as great as Nedeljkovic's, but at the same time, a similar outcome where he's still getting you some decent volume. Don't let the bad team fallacy really impact you when it comes to goaltenders if you're in a points league. If you're in a categories league, I don't recommend any of these goalies. Maybe Harrison if you're really in a pinch, but I think for the most part, for those of you in points leagues that just want some starting volume, Ned, Mrazek, and Harrison are all great options. That will do for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of that Mikko Rantanen trade. I'm super interested to see what Colorado is going to do. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought. I was absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe it at first that the Avs trade away a guy like that. But I could go on forever, guys. But let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the trade. I'll see you in the next one. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week.